So, welcome everybody to a new episode of Cadillac on Mars. It's me, Chalfie. I have a special guest today, someone that really, through like this kind of, coming out of the COVID period, even though we're not completely out of it, has brought me a lot of joy. And I really want to highlight this person, just with like the entertainment, the music, just like, it's been a fun experience getting to watch LA Bellatini on Twitch, doing these musical performances, DJing, and just it's someone I wanted to get to know a little bit better, someone I wanted to just kind of highlight for the community as well, because like I said, just every time she's performing on Twitch, I'm like, this is so much fun. There's even times where she's like streaming and I'm just listening in because I'm sitting in traffic in the 405, which is a very Californian thing to do. So it's just always a joy. So I just want to say, thank you, LA Bellatini, Isabel, for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for that intro. I think it's like so funny that it's my intention, but at the same time, I get a lot of validation in hearing that people feel joy when they listen to my sets, because it's why I do it. Mm-hmm. So this is just as fulfilling for me, like this, I'm just as honored as you just said you were, or whatever. Like I really am pretty pumped that you asked me to do this.
Yeah, because I mean, it was like, even going back to like last week, I was like in the worst like school district meeting, and it was just boring. It was just data, and then the notification comes up on my screen, LA Bellatini performing, or is going live, and I was like, for real? I got to sit in this dumbass meeting listening to people like just telling me nothing that's important to me. I could be watching the jams right now. Like I could be like enjoying myself working on these documents, like, having a good time listening to good music. No, was not going to be had that day.
Hey, you gotta make that money though. You know what I'm saying?
It is true.
Sometimes it true. Sit in a boring meeting.
Yeah. It's like, I got to keep these kids safe and in the right direction. But, I want to get into like things like what makes you. Like first, let's talk about like your musical like style, and even like where your influences come from. Like, because you do have a uniqueness to the music that you compile. So tell me a little bit about it.
It's interesting to hear you say that. I that's something I've heard a few times over the last few weeks that I've really kind of started to listen to. I had a girlfriend just yesterday tell me, she's like, how do you even know this song? Like, I'm 10 years older than you, and this was like what I was jamming to. How do you? And that question always hits me different, because I feel like I don't know. It feels normal to me that I would be listening to music that's older than me, or you know what I mean? Like maybe not of my time or whatever. But I think that came from my parents. I mean, I was a latchkey kid, so I was raised by television and by music, Mm-hmm. So my parents, they played music all the time. We had a pretty good record collection growing up, so we had a lot of music that we always had around the house. And I had some cousins that were older, so I would listen to, whether between my parents listening, like my mom was way into Motown, way into just a lot of like the soul, like rhythm and blues and soul from like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
She was way into that. A lot of like what she would call hippie music. Like she's into Carole King, and there's a lot of like stuff that I remember. She would actually sit us down and talk. I remember one time she sat down and talked to me, like she was having conversation about the Carole King album down to the like the album cover, how she doesn't have her shoes on in the album cover, and how my grandmother was like, my grandma was like, oh, like she'd see like this album cover and it's like, oh, look at that disgusting hippie, shoes on. Like, oh,
mira la sucia.
Yeah, totally. And I remember my mom just being so inspired by the idea that you could walk around your house with no shoes on, and little things like that, because we were raised in a pretty, I mean, I'm sure being Latino, like we needed to assimilate. That was kind of like what I heard and how I was raised. Like, we just need to kind of keep our heads down, don't cause any waves, don't do anything, because we should be so happy to be here. Mm-hmm. My mom wasn't that. She didn't believe in all that, but I think I even took it a step further. And not only do I have a right to be here, but you're not going to miss me. That's kind of always been my approach. Like, you're gonna I'm here. I take up as much space as I possibly can, and even more. And I do it for the people who, you know, sacrifice themselves for me to be here, you know? But I think my music taste and all that was really just always around me. I was around, I mean, that's what we listened to. Like, we listened to all kinds of music, whether it was my cousins and their freestyle, you know what I mean? Yeah. My uncles, they were really into like rap. And then growing up, you know, my friends, I grew up during the golden era of hip hop. So, you know, I was totally normal for us to go on Tuesdays to the record outlet in Thousand Oaks and for the new album drops, you know what I mean? And we'd hear some people, and, you know, somebody's cousin in Los Angeles had this thing, and we were 30 miles away, and we were like, oh, that's coming out. Like, you know, so I think I just have always been pretty good about surrounding myself or just happened to be surrounded by people who really loved music and had a real connection with it. It was like an escape, you know? And that's how I use music today.
Yeah, because like, I hear a lot of parallels in what you're saying, because very similarly, like my mom, she was very Motown. She was very rhythm and blues. Yeah, the house was full of like Betty Wright, Smokey Robinson. Like it was very soulful on her end. And then with my dad's an interesting character because he was like primarily born and raised in Mexico, like outside of Guadalajara area. Both my parents like from Santa Barbara area, and eventually like he like in high school like stayed. He's like, I'm not going back, and became very like Americanized. And on his end was like Led Zeppelin, Doors, Hendrix, Santana, but also very like mariachi, banda. You know, so the house was very like eclectic in that way, and that really, really shaped me. And then one of my uncles, who was I think he's only like 4 or 5 years older than me, he was doing the like going down to like LA swap meets and then coming back, and then like, here's Booyah Tribe, here's Poetry in Motion, here, like, so he was hitting me with all the like hip hop that wasn't like mainstreamed, you know? So it was just like that sort of, like you said, that passion for music where it's like, for me, I have a lot of interest, but nothing beats my love for music. Like, and so it's like, it's a beautiful thing because it's like, it's the one of the few things that moves me, that like a tone can like break my heart or fulfill me, you know, just in a few notes. And so it's like when you're putting songs together sometimes, where even ones where I'm just like, because you said it too, like, where did you pull that from? Like, that's obscure. Like, no one knows that. Like, when I ask people, you know this, they're like, and I have to hum a few bars. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, I guess you had to be there, you know? And so it's like, you pull some stuff out too, where I'm like, did we grow up in the same house? Because these mixes, there's a little dance in there, there's a little party in there, there's the old school, there's the funk, there's the modern stuff, there's like, I'm like, oh, all of a sudden, like, Madonna raises her head for a second. You're like, wait, what?
Well, I think that's like the part that my style, it started getting, I mean, I always have said like I'm an open format DJ, and, but I don't feel, I think because I'm relatively, I mean, I didn't really start mixing and going out, performing out until about 3 years ago for the first time. Like 3 years ago. And before then, I mean, I've always had 2 turntables and a mixer. I've always had vinyl. I've always had a pretty good music knowledge, some pretty good music knowledge.
Now, when you say you always, like, at like what age?
Man, I mean, I didn't start really thinking about this until I really started picking up on DJ. When I started picking up on DJ, like, I thought it was really weird. Like, I was like, man, can you believe it? I learned how to like DJ from the Beat Junkies. And then people were immediately asking me to play. Like, I mean, I had a homie of mine who was like, play with me. And that was the thing that I started paying attention to. People really started asking me to play. And I was like, and I always felt like a little inferior. Like, oh, I had like a little bit of like, what is it called?
The imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome. Yeah. I was just like, why does anybody want me to play? Like, you know, I don't know. I always felt really weird about it. But then it forced me to really think about like, I'm not an imposter, am I? Like, how much information do I have? Because you hear all these DJs and they've been DJing for 20 years since they were in high school or whatever, right? And I don't have
they're breaking down the science.
Yeah. And I think like I have literally been making mixtapes since I was like 5, 6 years old. I mean, I remember when I got my first double, like, you know, I would record off the radio. Yeah, I would always record off the radio. And then when I got my boombox, I remember that was a thing that my family would give me all the time. It was either a new boombox, a new Walkman, or a Discman eventually, you know? And then, so then once I got like the tape to tape, it was game over. I would mix all sorts of things, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then I had like a fake radio show at one point with like a girlfriend of mine.
No way.
We would just, oh my God, we would like record, on, you know, we would put music in and then we'd come in and do little sketches or whatever, you know. So I gotta be honest, that was in junior high. So I easily, since like the age of, I want to say like 4 or 5, you know, I started, since the age of like 5. I remember 5 or 6, like I would record stuff off the radio, you know? Yeah. So that's just always been kind of my thing. Like if I go to a bar, if anytime I'd go to a bar, if there was a jukebox, I always took control of it. You know what I mean? I would throw in, I was the asshole that would throw like $30 in the machine.
You just dominate the night.
And I bet, guess what? I don't have to worry about any, like I like to have control of the music, you know?
Because as much as there's like, as much as I appreciate a lot of music, there is some music, like I said, that music will bring me a physical feeling. And there's some out there that I'm like, oh, this like, it hurts. Like I feel like I can't get out of my skin. And so I've been there too. I've been that guy where I'm like, here's a smooth 20. I'll be here for 2 hours. Like I am not hearing this other song again.
I'm very proud to announce that I've never played Suavemente. Like I will never play that song. And you know what other song I was asked to play this weekend at this conference, and I was like, I don't have it, and I am not playing. I didn't have it, and I'm proud again. It's that Achy Breaky Heart, the Mexican, the line dance version of that. I don't even know what it's called. I am very proud to not have played that song either. So I definitely have songs that I'm like, no,
like, that's a hard no. I'm not gonna do that.
Hard no. I'm not doing that. You know,
no, that's funny. But because like one of like, if I have regrets, one of my biggest regrets is when like this is like I was like going into junior high too, and you know, I was hitting the phase of like, you don't know mom, you don't know dad, and my dad was like, hey, my friend's got a DJ set, he's gonna sell me it real cheap, you know, he's hard for money, you want it? And I was like, nah. But now to this day I'm still like, what an ass. Like that would have been so rad to be like in 7th grade with like a full DJ setup. And now I'm in a place where it's like I'm gonna name drop a little, but my friend DJ Trackstar hooked me up with the little Newmark, the portable turntable. And so like now I'm just like looking all sad with my little turntable, little fader switch. And but it's just like kind of, if this is the best I can do, then I'm gonna bring it back around someday, you know, I'll get a full setup. And then I just signed up for the Beat Junkies.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm gonna start in January, because I've been trying to find the window of time to make it work. And so I'll be going like January to February, because it's like that's like the quietest time of year for me.
Oh, so perfect. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, I'm super excited. And it's one of those things I've been sitting on for a long time. And then like once the world kind of fell apart, because I was already looking then, and I was like hitting my cousin like, let's do this. And then it was like, oh wait, we're on lockdown. Never mind. So
yeah, you're gonna love it. And one thing I will say that I wasn't prepared for was because I always thought I like a lot of music. I have a lot of music knowledge. I'm friends with a ton of DJs. I've always been into DJ culture. I've been to, you know, I've been to a bunch of like parties out here that were just DJ based. So I've known a lot of DJs for a very long time. And, but my relationship with DJs completely changed. I mean, once I became a DJ, or, you know, I finally called myself a DJ.
You see it on the other end.
Yeah. And the one thing that no one could have ever prepared me for was the emotional side of DJing, you know? And like you said, like we listen to music, the lyrics, all these kind of things. it's a different thing altogether now when I mix it and I play it, because I feel empowered by it, and almost like my sets have now turned into just like almost like, and I think about a lot of things like this. Like when I cook, I feel like especially if I'm cooking for people, like I do feel very magical a lot. So, you know, I feel like when I'm cooking, I'm creating a magic, you know what I mean? Like connecting people, I create a magic. And now with like music, there's like a magic, and it really truly, and this isn't me just like, it runs through my whole body, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I feel like,
well, because you're shifting the energy in the environment, you
oh,
know, like
I feel like what's his name, Doctor Strange or whatever, like, you know,
yes.
yeah, I feel like I'm literally like, oh, I'm about to control this whole space right now. I'm about to, you know what I mean? Like, and like I make sure I really, really, really only play music I love.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is that, and I think people really identify or can connect with that, because I'm really playing, I really either play for myself, or like to get me, like what gets me like pumped and cool. Or if I find like two people on a dance floor that are freaking jamming, I will literally pinpoint
like, this for you.
Just them. I will just play just for those fucking people. You know, if I really have to think about other people, like, it's like, I'm going to play for those two people right now, and I'm going to get them. And I love the way it looks when I'll watch them and I'll see like how they react and what they're doing to each other and how they touch or whatever. And in some narcissistic way, I guess I feel like I'm doing that.
Well, that's what I was just about to say, is like, not in a negative sense, but you're being a puppeteer. You're manipulating the environment. And it's like, and at the same time, like, you're creating a beautiful thing, because they're going to go home, they're going to end their night, and you made a memory, like you made a lasting impression, because nothing beats a good night. Like when it's just like, you've had a great time, like everything was on point, the music was there. It's like, this is like super awesome. Like I can't wait to live in that moment again. So it's like, I totally get what you're saying, you know, where you just like direct it to them. Because that was a question I had too, is like, when you're making your like, what goes into creating your playlist, and are the playlists, and you kind of touched on it, are they primarily for you or for others? Like, do you do it to be like, I want to expose people to something, or you're just like, this is my mood tonight and this is what I'm going for?
So I really don't, so that's a funny thing that you just asked, because I just posted something on my Instagram today that was similar. I think there was a point in my life where I thought like I needed to teach people lessons or be the one to teach people. I don't like that mentality anymore. Like I don't identify with that anymore, where I'm the one teaching anyone. I am here to love and be loving and love you. And I hope that you learn for yourself through the love, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't really teach. I'm not looking at, and I hear people say that all the time. Like, they're like, oh, you know, I'm here to, you know, I want these people to learn. Like, I'm going to tell them what they need to know. And I'm just like, I don't know that I want that much responsibility, you know? When I put together my sets, like I said, I really, I can be a very moody person, in that I'm emotional, and I'm okay with expressing my emotions. And so you'll listen to a set sometimes and you'll be like, oh dude, some guy was being a real jerk to her, obviously, or maybe today, and she's telling this guy what's up, or
there's, you know, a narrative.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like right now I released my first edit with my homie V Fresh, and I released my first edit with my homie V Fresh yesterday, and it was the Patrice Russian Feel So Real. We did a cumbia edit.
Okay.
That we were inspired, and we put that together. And like, man, that song just right now, like everything right now is on that vibe for me right now. Like that song to me represents like a like unknown, right? It's like an unknown future, this like love, and like kind of like it all feels so real. I just can't let go. You know what I mean? Like your mind's like thinking about it, and like it's like so optimistic about like navigating and being touched and loved and all that kind of stuff, and just like that newfound like love. And I feel like I'm going through that kind of phase right now. So a lot of the music I'm playing currently right now is like sensual. It's very feminine. It's very like, it's just, you know, it's just like a sexy, feminine, powerful kind of vibes, you know, like like the vulnerability that comes out in some of the lyrics, the way that they're sung. And so I go through periods, but I think I do freestyle a lot of my sets, you know, because I like at the end figuring out, like realizing or that feeling of like, I'm like, oh man, I almost got like a bit of closure, or I got a bit of like, it was a cathartic, you know, to play some of these things and to sing at the top of my lungs and to kind of get it out. There's like a lot of catharsis in a lot of the music that we're playing. And I think that we're all going through a lot of, you know, trauma, living in this, you know, already super capitalistic society, but then also during the, you know, the pandemic, we learned real quick, nobody cares about any of us at all.
Zero.
So I need to make sure I love myself at the ultimate, and I'm going to make sure that everyone around me feels that, because I know that we're all dealing with stuff outside of it, you know, outside of music, outside of what we might be doing, you know?
Right. And I haven't had the opportunity to catch one of your live sets. It's on my list, you know, but it comes through even in your Twitch streams, like and to hear you say like you freestyle as well is like, that blows my mind, because like I've checked in on a lot of like DJs on Twitch, and not a lot of them like kept me coming back, because like, let me go to this before I go to that. One thing that I miss, and my next show is coming up next week, I went to a lot of concerts. Like that was my thing, is like live music. And I was like at minimum one a month. And that's what like keeps me charged up and going. And so your streams feel like that. Like I feel that sort of live energy coming through. Like you're dancing, you're moving, you're interacting. You know, the way you're even just working with like your system in front of you, it's like, no, this is like real deal. Like, be it 10 people or 1,000 people, like you're live, you're energetic, you're performing, and that translates so well that I'm just like, yeah, I want to see more of this, because it's the energy I miss. It's the being around people. The chat is always going off really well, and it's like, this is the club, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is what it is. You start to get some familiar names in there, and it's like, hey, what's up? You know, it's like there's someone on the other side. And so it's like, you really have created an environment that is like very positive, very, very joyful, but also, as you said too, and I want to use it in a more general sense, is full of a lot of soul, you know, because you do mention things where you're either going through something, or you're remembering a thing, or you're just embracing the day, you know, but it's like, you really, really put that out there. And so now I'm like, how the hell are you freestyling on top of this? Like, you're going through an emotion. Like I said, you're physically, and then you're going to be like, I think I'm going to play this. You know, and I'm like, what? You're crazy. Like, how does your mind move?
I mean, I'll be the first to tell you, anyone that's known me for very long will totally confirm, like, I am crazy, you know, like I have a really a wild way of thinking about a lot of things. I try a lot of things, and I'm a real risk taker. Mm-hmm. That's what gets me high outside of the weed. I also get high on like taking chances and just kind of doing stuff. The dancing and all that stuff, like I can't, that's just, I've always been a very active social person. And so when the pandemic happened, I was really afraid that we were going to lose connection with one another. And man, Twitch has like made me feel so much better. It actually gave me hope for humanity. I know that there were people that like, I've had a bot come in my stuff a bunch of times or whatever and be jerks. But for the most part, I have nothing but like such a positive experience with Twitch. I mean, the community we created together, I mean, you're part of it too. You know what I mean? Like, it's every angle, every person that's involved is part of what we, I say we, because we all really, I mean, you should have seen us all when it all was going down. We're all trying to get on. I'm the one who got Ricardo on. I was like, look, this is what's happening. This is what I got going on. You got to download this, do it. Cause I need you on. Cause I need a you know, and then we connected with Metro Sessions, and I've connected with all these DJs all over the world, which is just honestly magical. You know, I thought I was going to my biggest fear was that we were going to be disconnecting from one another. And I ended up connecting more and deeper with people in that time. You know what I mean? Like,
because it's like we had to learn how to, one, be a little more flexible and open to the different platforms, you know, because it's like, you know, I'm just speaking for myself. It's like being a little bit older. the stereotype is, fearful of like social media and connect, online's creepy, predator, stuff like that. And it's like, listen, ain't no one being a predator on someone who's 45 years old. That's not like their thing. I mean, maybe it is something. I'm not shaming someone's kink. If that's your vibe, that's your vibe, whatever. But it's like, nah, it's not me. But it's like, having used social media for quite a while, it's like, in this podcast in itself, like the guys that I record with, one's in Ohio, one's in Miami, one's in Atlanta. I've only met one of them in real life. He was the one from Atlanta, lives in or grew up in Chicago. We met up in Chicago and like hung out. And it was just like, because these are people I now talk to on a daily basis. Like these are people I've been communicating with for years. And it's like, it's weird to say because like back in the day, I was like, you don't meet people, you meet online. But now it's just like, yeah, I'll be in Chicago. You gonna be there? Yeah, cool. Let's kick it. Like it's just different relationships.
And that's the coolest part. Like since coming out of the pandemic, now my gigs, I'll have people show up at my gigs that I have never met, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That I've only met online or have seen me online. Like that trips me out. It does trip me out. It's taken a little bit to get used to, but that's not to say that it's like bad or anything,
it's breaking a barrier that's like, oh, this is different.
Well, and people know me very well now because they've seen me in my home. They, like you said, I share intimate things, and so they feel like they know me, and they do, to some degree, right? But I don't know them outside of what's in that chat. You know what I mean? Like if we talk to each other in the chat, unless they stream. So sometimes I'll somebody like, I remember I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Isabel. And they're like, hi, I'm Jenny or whatever. And I'm like, oh, cool, I'm Isabel. And they're like, yeah, we know LA Bellatini, da, da, da. And I'm just like, okay, I didn't know you knew. And also like, I'm not Tom Cruise, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just a girl, like my bio says, like I'm just a girl who gets stoned, drinks whiskey, and likes to play music, in my living room. And I try to maintain that vibe. Like that's why I don't have like a green screen. I mean, I do have a green screen and I do have all that, but I don't use it because I want people to feel like they're with me in my living room. And that's what got me to DJ,
Yeah. And like I said, it all comes through. It all comes through in a very positive, very energetic way, and in a very, like I said recently, it's very inspiring. Because you do talk about like the risk taking. You do talk about just kind of appreciating the moment. And I think if we learned anything too, it's like really enjoy, like right now, like today, because like it can all fall apart again.
I mean, what did we learn? I mean, how many people, like over 500,000 people died, you know what I mean? Yeah. And in the last year, and 3 people close to me passed away. I mean, actually, I think probably now a little bit more, but one of my best friends passed away in December. My mother-in-law passed away in December. My brother-in-law passed away the Friday. Hey guys, the February. Mm-hmm. And that was just something I had to learn,
Yeah.
Okay. That was just something I had to, like, I learned through all that loss, my dog died. There's all these things, like you learn through all that stuff. And like, they didn't die from COVID, those people died from, different things. And it's like, man, my friend who passed away, he was like 10 years younger than me, mm-hmm. and he has a wife and a daughter, and that he, that's only a year old. And I just like, I made like a real conscious decision, and I'm making a very conscious decision to be the main character of my story and to just change it at any time. So if I'm like feeling sad or feeling upset or feeling like depressed or whatever, I allow myself to feel that way. But I also think of like the tools I have to like get myself out of it, or I lean into it sometimes and I'm just like, okay, but it's okay to be sad. Sometimes you have to be sad,
Mm-hmm. And that touches on a narrative that I feel you kind of send out quite often, and that's, you have like almost like in a sense like a continuous rebirth of like learning who you are, because I think that that's something that one, and I want to kind of go in this direction too, I think just kind of within the like the Latin culture as well, as like you get older, you get stuck, but it's like we got to learn to be like, no, I'm going to evolve. Like I'm not who I was 2 years ago. I'm not who I was 10 years ago. And I didn't really feel like I had an understanding of who I was until I got into my 40s. And then I was like, oh no, I think I'm okay. Like I'm good with me. And I'm still out here skateboarding, and I'm still going to the shows, and I'm still having fun. Like I'm still doing the things that I enjoy, and I can really like not give a lot of attention or energy to someone who's going to be like, you're too old for that, or you're too this for that, where it's just like, it's just what I like, man. Like, just let me live, you know?
My God, that's like my motto. Like, just let me live. I mean, I think you could probably understand, like, well, just being Latino, but also being like, Mexican woman.
Mhm.
There was a lot of things I probably should have been doing. I think my family, my grandma would have loved if I had gotten married to one really great guy and had some kids and like stayed at home and made cool meals and whatever. And you know what? I could do that, I guess. I mean, I've done it. I'm like, I'm about to I'm like the Elizabeth Taylor. Like I've been married a couple times, about to get, separate from my husband, but it's not, I don't see, there's obviously a sadness to some of that stuff, but I don't see, I am just not going to be, I'm just not going to be like, I'm not the kind of person that's going to be like, well, it's not exactly what I want, but I just do not believe that. I believe that we are all entitled to having like the happiest, best life ever, as long as it's not hurting someone else. And I'm a very warm and loving person. Like man, you could talk to any of my exes and they might have some really kind of, they might have some bad things to say about me. But one thing for sure that none of them can take away is that I probably made them feel pretty amazing in the way I love, and I'm extremely generous in my affection and I'm a very thoughtful and kind person, but I'm also just not one to be messed with either. So when I'm a Virgo, so whenever I'm done, I'm done,
that's a wrap.
But like, I think where society tells us we need to be doing something, you might be too old for this or too young for that or too whatever. I mean, I've rebelled against what I've been told I'm supposed to do for my entire life. I mean, I was in contact sports most of my life. I mean, I boxed, you know what I mean? And like, oh man, I don't know how many times people would tell me like, oh, you're too pretty to box. And it's like, you wouldn't say that shit to Oscar De La Hoya.
You're right. I mean? And he's a very good looking man. Like,
and he's a very good looking guy. Yeah. I'll bet you no one told him he was too pretty to box.
Yeah, they're like, no, you should go into modeling. You got good cheek structure. No, he's over here getting his face broken.
And so I think that's something that I think if we all actively just did what we like, that's something I learned during the pandemic, really. I learned that it's like, if I do what I love and I just work on myself and the person I want to be, I will attract the people that like to be around me. And I don't need to I'm not ever looking for someone to like me. If they like me, great. If they don't, that's great too. I don't think everyone needs to like me. And I certainly don't think that everyone does, but I think that, I don't worry about that. I instead spend my time on like me making sure that I'm taking the right steps in the right direction, and that it comes from a place of, honesty and truth and just love and just being kind. That's not to say that I'm not an asshole sometimes, for sure,
Yeah. And we all have our moments.
I mean, dude, I think there's definitely, I'm very forthcoming. I'm very like bold. I'm very like straight up. And that sometimes could be a little of a turnoff for some people, but I appreciate it when people tell me like, okay, I get what you're saying, but maybe this tone is not right. And then I could be like, okay, let me like step back or whatever. If it's something, if it's like, oh, okay, that's not what I meant or whatever. But I think the more we get into like the more we ignore what we're supposed to be doing and do really, it's like, okay, what am I doing? I think when you're in your truth, that's the most that we can do,
Yeah, because it's hard to fight it in terms of like, or to argue against, what I mean?
I was exactly like, if someone's going to be like, oh, like this weekend, and I get signs from the universe all the time, that I listen to. And so like, for instance, this last weekend, I did a gig at this club. It was like a legit club. And it was my biggest, it was like, well, I don't really do clubs. That's not my people. The clubs aren't really, I'm not playing Shots or Baby's Got Back. You know what I mean? Like that's not, and this place certainly played that, and so that's not my vibe, but they invited me to come out there and they invited me to do what I do. So I went out there, and at one point in my set, of course, this promoter came up and was like, "Oh, do you have any more like top 40 that you could play?" Meanwhile, the dance floor was packed.
Yeah, you're like, are you looking out there? Do you see?
I know the dance floor was packed. Women were like twerking, like they were. I was like, it was not, like I had two women like freaking me the whole time. It was the first time I ever DJ'd with like a woman literally holding on to my boobs and rubbing up on me. And I was not going to say no to that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I want
You're just like, we're partying. It's on.
You know what? That song made me feel sexy too. I want people to fucking feel so out of control that they're like going to rub themselves all over their dude or their woman or whoever, me, you know? And when so this guy came over to me and he's like, "Can you play more top 40? As this woman's like freaking on me, I just look at him a little bit like, okay, let me see what I can do. I turn away from him. And to the left of me, two dudes just start throwing money at me. Holy and shit. They're like, "Dude, you're killing it. Don't stop." They didn't hear this guy.
Yeah. See, you got hit with a like intersection real quick.
And that's the kind of thing that I think about. Like, I was like, top 40, are you serious? In my head, but then the universe put these two dudes instantly in front of me who were throwing, they threw $70 at me.
This is a scenario where literally the math doesn't add up. You got these two guys, you have this one lady on you, that's 3, and then you have this versus 1. Like, which one's greater? Which one's greater?
There's one stale dude that's gonna tell me like what to play. Like, they always have dudes at this place. This is the first, not the first time, but it's like, and I do feel that a lot of the music is played more for men than it is for women. You know what I mean? Like, It's like guys want to play all this stuff that's like, shut up. It's so aggressive. You know what I mean? And look, I'm down with playing aggressive, but I want to play like sexy, like sensual aggressive. You know what I mean? I want to play like I want to, like, that's kind of like my thing. I was playing like a lot of tropical bass, like, but it was like, reggaeton kind of vibe, but it was like, and I don't really play a lot of reggaeton, but it was very like primal, like, and I'm telling you, the people were going nuts. And I was like, but the second like these guys started throwing money and they were like, "You're awesome, you're the best, like keep going." I just, in my head, I was like, I just laughed. I was like, top 40. No, it's not gonna happen.
They're doing it. You're like, nope. You want top 40? You can easily just walk right outside. Yep. And you could put it on like power, kiss, like knock yourself out.
Hey, and you know what? Like, take the L, bro. I guess I wasn't good for you. You know what I mean? That wasn't your vibe. Then you take the L, because I'm not changing my game.
Yeah, especially just for one person. And when you have the result there, like, because I look at like music, DJing. It's a science, like an experiment in a sense, and it's like, what you do is you curate something. You're in the lab mixing things together, and like I said, the way it comes through, the way it sounds is like, yeah, this all makes sense, and it's very positive, it's very energetic, it's like it's a good moment. And but you can manipulate that in different ways. Like, I know when I do love to make like playlists. I did the same thing making like tapes back in the day, but where I struggle is I make them very primarily for me, where it's just like, so when I play it and someone else is like, "Why is this so that?" And I'm like, "Oh, because you're not like in my head," like, and so, but it's to shift the tone, it's to shift the environment, but it's that science that's behind it, and I think you do a great job of that. And the performers I like to see like in person, or like the ones on Twitch, it's like they do that. They bring that energy, and it's like, and if you're bringing that to a live environment, like, you got to let it ride. Like, you did your thing,
Yeah, this guy was a clown. Honestly, they're used to that. That's what they're used to. I guess that's what they want to play. They want to stay safe or whatever. I'm not safe, especially when playing music. And, that's not me being like a cocky person. It's like, I could only give you what I don't try to be anyone else. You know what I mean? I don't try to do what you do. And like, I'm not going to, I always want to be able to give an authentic version of myself. It's not going to be the same if I'm playing something I'm not into, like, and I of course, like, I want to make people happy or whatever. If I didn't see a bunch of people, just totally dancing and losing their freaking minds, I would have maybe changed it up, but people were losing their minds, and
yeah, if they're just standing at the side having some drinks, that's like, all right, let me see. Like, maybe I'm not clicking right now.
I think maybe this guy was like afraid that people were going to get too horny and leave. You know what I mean? But that's the one thing I knew.
He's like, sure. Hey, I'm trying to keep him here all night. I'm not trying to get trying to get him out the door real quick.
People got wasted and they were just like they were twerking like crazy. That was the one thing that they probably haven't. I'm sure they woke up with like pretty sore waists.
They're like, man, I really threw that ass everywhere. That's so funny.
But it was a really cool, like, and that was like that's like what I would call like another DJ moment, right? Where they're like, can you play top 40? And I'm like, nah.
Yeah. Like, no. Moving on.
Yeah. I'm LA Bellatini. I play what I want. Imagine.
Now, how did you get the name?
Oh man, I wish there was a much better story about that. But I used to be I still kind of am a casting director. That's what was my job. I worked in entertainment forever. Like I've worked in television and film for the last over 20 years. And I had a company called LA Bellatini Casting. And the way I got it was because I'm from LA, and then Bella, because my name's Isabel. So, and people call me Bella. And then I used to, at the time, I was drinking martinis a lot, you know? So I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And I needed to come up with a company name real quick for this one job. And so that's when I chose LA Bellatini. But then when I started really DJing out, the beat junkies make you pick a name. They're like, well, you have to pick a name because we have to put it on a plaque and all this kind of thing. And I was just like, I don't know. I feel like, I box too. So one thing in boxing is you don't pick your own name. You know what I mean? You get named.
Yeah.
And so I felt some sort of way about picking a name for myself that, I don't know. It was like, I don't even know what it would have been. But because I kind of ran out of time, I was like, well, whatever. My Instagram is LA Bellatini. Let's just make it and whatever. I did not know and didn't think about it, but now people call me Bellatini all over. Like I've been I was at a soccer stadium and I was actually recognized by someone like from Twitch, and they were like, "Oh, what's up, Bellatini?" They gave me "What's up," and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, now that's my name." You know what
I mean? So it came full circle. They're just like, "This is what it is."
Yeah, it is what it is. Now my name is Bellatini, and now I'm stuck with it, which is fine. Like I really like it. I actually like the way it sounds, and people often think that my name's La Bellatini, or they'll call me La Bellatini, and they find out, they're like, "Oh my god, so sorry." But you know what? I like La Bellatini too, because that makes sense also.
That's what I thought it was at first too. And I was like, man, easy Chola vibes, like relax.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And I'm so not a Chola, right? But I can see why they would do that. And so I kind of like having a little bit of an edge. So when people call me La Bellatini, I do feel like I'm like, oh, that's right. I'm a little bit, I got a little bit of an edge with me too,
Because the way I found out about you was seeing Vans promote the shop Mi Vida, and then from there they posted something on their Instagram where you were like live, or you were like DJing outside or something. And so then it was like from there, and honestly from that it's like put me on to a wide variety of things. Like I've met like Paul, who does the Trinity coffee, like has like delivered to my house and stuff like that.
Oh, I love him.
And so when he came and pulled up, like I think we stood outside and maybe we talked for like a smooth hour, and it's like it's really cool. Like, and I think that's what I like about everything that's happening right now in this moment of time is like people just want to talk, they just want to communicate, and they want to have good conversation. And it's like, and I love listening to people. Like I'll ask you the questions because I want to hear more of what you have to say. And so it's like we were just outside, just hanging out, just chit chatting, talking it up. And it's like it's awesome, and to see people who look like me, you know what I mean? Where it's just like, you got brown skin too. This is great. Like I love it. Like I want to support the culture as much as I can. I want to support the community as much as I can, because it's like, as you were saying early on in the conversation, it was about fitting in. And I spent a large majority of my life trying to fit in, to not like make the waves and just, do the thing. And, it was like, no, there's more to this. And now I feel like I've missed out on so many things because I'm like, I should have been over there. I should have been doing this thing. Like, first time, because like one of my favorite concert places is the Lodge Room in Highland Park. And the first time I went to Highland Park, which was maybe like 3-4 years ago, I was like, why don't I live here? Like, because it was like the community was alive, it was vibrant, and it was like it it was everything that like I want in my life, where it was like, it was culture, it was energy, it was just so vibrant. I was like, oh, but I also love Long Beach too, so I ain't leaving Long Beach. That's just, it is what it is.
I know that right now. Well, that's actually, I had the same kind of feeling with Highland Park too, because I've been coming to Highland Park for probably like 15 years or so, because I used to go, I loved, same thing. I loved being around. I mean, I was born and raised in like the Newbury Park, Ventura County area.
Same.
And so
I grew up in Oxnard.
Yeah. Oh, you live in Oxnard? You live in Oxnard?
Yeah.
Well, I was raised out there, and especially in Newbury Park, the premier, a lot of white people. I was raised around a ton of white people. And essentially, if you were brown, black, or anything else, you would kind of hang out together. And if you liked hip hop, I don't know, back in the day, we used to connect by our music. It's, so it was like brown, black, and anything else would connect about hip hop, and we would all get together. And so I was always constantly, I actually would say this for a long time. I really I connected mostly with like the Black community. I think I'm much more, my activism is, rooted in Black liberation. So I've always kind of been about, I think maybe because we saw, different shows like Jefferson's, and like, anybody of color that was on TV was probably Black, right? Not a lot of Latinos unless you're watching like Spanish TV. Yeah. So I think I always felt really connected to the Black community, and music especially too. And like I said, my activism has been rooted in Black causes and all that. So when it wasn't until really probably into like my mid 30s, where I really started kind of being like really kind of, and I was kind of always before my parents, they didn't like tattoos, any sort of cholo culture, or any sort of like, they didn't like that culture of like the cholo culture, they didn't like the lowrider culture. They wanted to really keep us away from all that, because they knew there's a way to protect us in some degrees, especially in this neighborhood, because it was all white, right? That neighborhood, if you were brown and you wore flannel, like they probably had like an
no way.
Yeah, like the cops would shake you down all the time, right? So, and we had sheriffs, so they were pretty hardcore. And so I think my parents always tried to protect us from that. And I love lowrider culture. Like I love graffiti culture. I love DJ culture. I love, tattoos. I love skating. I love like all the things that like push boundaries. I was always just so attracted to it because I was so taken from it. You know what I mean? Like I was kept from it. It's funny, like the Vivita people are so perfect because they are like all the things that I love.
Yes. Like everything they post, everything that's out there, like I'm just like, that's it right there. It's being like the essence of Latin, but very specific LA style, like Southern California style, but in a modern culture, without assimilating, without, it's not like, and this is the, like beach vibe. It's like, it's way different. It's a whole different thing. And I love it so much. So it's just
it's so fun.
Yeah. So seeing them do their thing is like amazing. And like how you were saying, like with the, growing up, like, my dad had the lowrider, like, he was out there with the undershirt and the hat with the feather, stuff like that. Like just this weekend, I had the strong craving to watch Boulevard Nights. I hadn't seen it in like years. And I was just like, but it really brought me home, because for so long, and like I said, in trying to assimilate, I lost those connections. But it's like lowrider culture has been huge for me. The hip hop culture has been a huge part of me. Like the documentary you shared, that shit blew my mind, because those El Rey shows, that's footage of shows I was at. So that I was like, I was right there. Like I was in this. And so it's like, it's regaining identity, regaining like who I am and what I love and what I enjoy.
Well, and you and I are both old enough to remember when hip hop started, like we were both there when it was beginning, right? Like DJing was beginning, like, there was no fader, like the equipment would not
raw.
exist if it wasn't for, the black community in the New York area, who decided to build these things together. And man, like that needs to be recognized. I don't believe that that's like even really recognized as like, any of these house DJs, all these kind of different DJs that are out right now doing stuff, like they all need to acknowledge that the only reason they have a crossfader is because of, like they recognize the roots. Yeah. And so I feel like with back to like the Highland Park kind of thing, that's why I moved there, because I really wanted, I just was like, oh, I need to, that's probably how I got a lot of gigs too, because I was like I went to all the parties. I went to all the bars. I talked to everybody. I wanted to know everybody because I've been kept away. Not really, I wasn't like kept away, but sort of, right? And so you having your brain, like I definitely have been, I have some decolonizing, I guess, also, right, that I need to do.
I guess that's a good way to put it. It is like decolonizing because you were
actively.
Yeah. Because like I was saying, like going back to that first like Highland Park experience, got out of the show, and then that main street it's on, I just like drove for maybe a smooth hour because I was just like, what is here? Like what is, I was like fucking Jack Skellington. What's this? I was like, oh my God, this is like, I need to be here more often, like it just, and then seeing the other things that come out of it, like it's always a scheduling issue. It's always a problem, but it's like, then learning about like the Orishi Barrio, and like the Hello Stranger stuff. And I'm just like, this is like amazing. Or like seeing you show your like grand performances. This is stuff I was not familiar. I'm like, how I didn't know this, and it all, I guess I have to say shout out to Vance. It took that one post for me to be like dots, like just start connecting all these things.
Oh man, you connected with like an incredible community. The Mivila family are, gosh, they're my family, I connected with them through, and then the Orishi Barrio with Angela, who runs all that, like she's also part of that family, and nothing but like, again, it's like these badass women that are from the neighborhood that have like just kind of been, they committed to who they are and what they're doing and whatever that is. And I just wanted to be a part of it. I have my own person, I have my own, bravery or guess whatever that I've had to go through. But then you see, to be around other women who've experienced completely different experiences and different drawbacks and whatever, and still have like a smile on their face, still advocate for the community, still, be hard. Also, they're able to like go out and fight for what's right. And there's a lot of like social justice that they're a part of, but then also they have like such a soft, feminine, sexy, sensual side. Like I've learned so much from just being around those ladies and that whole community.
And that's the amazing like intersectionality of it all. It's like what you just described, where it's like, because I appreciate it and value it so much. It's like these are strong women, clearly, including you, where you have your you express and embrace your femininity, but you also like show like, but you have strength and confidence. And it's like, as a father of a daughter, that's all I want. Like, be strong in who you are. Like, believe in who you are. Like, don't do it for me, do it for you. Like, that's all I'm asking for, is like, and touching on something you said earlier too, like, be the best person that you are. Like, my son who gives me headaches forever, like I tell him, I'm like, listen, dude, this is all I need you to do. Just don't be whack. Like, just don't be a trash person. Like, that's all I'm asking you to do. Like, you want to learn to play drums? I will find the means. You want to learn to do something else? We'll get that going. Let me know what you're interested in. I'll make it happen. Just don't be like a bad person. That's it. Because you'll figure out your way. We'll get there. But it's like, because you kind of put out what you get up, like if you're just going to be negative, you're going to get negative.
Well, and also like bad person can mean, I know a guy who, puts on events and does a lot of stuff for, the community. Has been part of the community for a very long time. And it's like, the events have been great and everything's cool. And like a lot of times they're a lot of fun. I made a lot of friends at these events and all that. But man, this guy does it for the glory of it, or to be able to say that he did it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't buy that. I think that's pretty selfish. I don't like that vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's like on my end, like my regular day-to-day is I'm an elementary school principal. And the one thing you will never hear me say ever is I did it. It's always we did or you did. Because I'm like, you put in the work, like you taught the kids, you did the thing. And that's like to the teachers, to the parents, like you did it. I just made sure they're not slapping each other on the playground. Like that's my main goal. And I'm handling the behind the scenes stuff, but I'm not the one to be like my school, my plan, because it's like, no, I'm just a component in this. I'm not the machine. I'm just one of the many cogs that makes this work. Because then it's like it empowers the team. We want to do this together, because if I want them to complete a task or do a thing, like I got to invest in them and I got to let them know that I'm here to support them.
And we really can't be passing judgment on anybody, right? Like, so even like a trash person or a bad person or whatever, it's like that could mean anything. Like I'm sure my grandmother at one point thought I was a trash person because I got a tattoo. You know what I mean?
But I think I did the comment back once. No, I stay judging. I just let you know, I'll be judging. All right, I'm gonna call it what it is. A spade is a spade. I'm judging. I'm like, I don't know.
When I get to a point where I'm starting to like pass judgment to someone, that's when I usually kind of try to back off, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't be hanging out with this person because I don't want to say like that.
And then, I think before you start judging on me, I know I said I was going to try to keep it to like 30, 45. So I do want to respect your time. I know you got things going on too, but I really, really enjoyed talking to you this evening. Like I said, I always enjoy your Twitch streams, and I can't wait to see you like perform live as well. And then just having you take the time today is just like, it's been so awesome. I just want to say thank you so much for like joining me this evening.
Oh my God, this is so fun. I'm always down. I was talking to my friend about having to do this. She's like, oh, I would never, my friend Marissa, and she's like, I would never be able to do that because like, I would have nothing to say. There's no shortage of things for me to say. I probably should stay quiet a little bit more, but I've got a lot to say, and by golly, I want people to listen. No, just kidding. I don't know. I'm really like pumped by this kind of stuff. And like I said, I love connecting. So this is like, I wasn't going to miss out on an opportunity to kind of just talk to you and connect with you a little bit more,
I appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it. And then, I got to say too, when you had your friend Marissa on recently, where you threw her up in front, that was one of the funniest streams. Like that was so good. It's just like, this really is like a moment in a day that just like, you're trying to cook, she's trying to figure out how to DJ again. I was like, this is amazing.
And what's so funny? She's like such a great DJ and such a great person. Telling her, I was just like, dude, who cares? Like, just go on, do it. Like, again, my stream has always been like rooted in like, I'm just a girl who smokes weed and wants to play some music. And if you want to hang out with me, like, that's what it's like when you hang out with me. Like, I will be smoking weed, drinking whiskey, and playing music. So I was actually letting people in on that experience, and I don't try to make it more than that,
Yeah. And that's what it always feels like, is that we're in on an experience. And so, I just want to say for myself, for everyone who's joined your streams or, got a chance to see that, thank you very much for like literally opening the doors to your home. Like it's in your house. Yeah. So it's like, just it does feel like, oh, I'm going over my friends real quick, so just thank you so much for just doing that too, and just always bringing good music, always bring good vibes. I can't wait to see what more music you put out. Even just one more small piece, when you do the like the themed days, like when you did the Prince one, like my God, it was so good. Like all of it just always fills my soul. So again, I know I'm gushing. I know I gotta let you go do your thing.
No, I'm gushing too. I'm always a little extra with it, so I'm always grateful for anyone who appreciates the extra.
Yeah. So
because like I always say, if I'm too much, then go find less, you know.
Which is probably very easy to do, to find less. I think you definitely come off as a very unique individual, and I mean that in the most endearing and like positive way. So
I appreciate that very much.
I can't wait to see you kind of shine more and just do more positive things in the world. If you ever have something you want to just chat about, you want to just come fuck around and just like bullshit on the podcast, you're just like, I just want to say wild things. I mean, that's fine too. You come join.
You know what?
Hang.
Don't be sending out invitations like that. I'm just saying, let's you might want to get to know me a little bit better before you start.
Let me reel it back. I'll be like, problematic. No.
now that you're taking lessons at the Beat Junkies, if you ever need help or you're just like, hey, what's happening? Like, I'm obviously anything you need, let me know. I'm here to be of service.
I appreciate it. Well, again, thank you for joining us. Where could people find you? Where can they connect with you?
I'm LA Bellatini everywhere. So on twitch.tv/LA Bellatini /LA Bellatini on Instagram, and on Venmo, you can LA Bellatini me.
Damn, no, you're not coming back. Ka-ching. You know what? That's the perfect way. So just want to say thank you so much for being a part of this. You're an awesome person, and I just want to say thank you. So Cadillac on Mars, I'm Chalfie. We out of here.
What did you say, Grandma? Mama.
What?
What did you say, Grandma? What did you say?
Grandma's not here.
Grandma's not here. She's not. She's